Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The legislation before us today is the product of a real bipartisan commitment to the U.S.-Israel relationship. I'd like to thank Chairman Ed Royce and Ranking Member Eliot Engel for making this bill a priority of the House Foreign Affairs Committee and by ensuring its consideration on the floor here today. I'd especially like to thank and recognize my colleague, my friend, my fellow Floridian, Chairman Emeritus of the full committee, Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, for her leadership on this legislation, but not just for that, for her ongoing commitment to the strength of the U.S.-Israel relationship and for standing up, as she always does, in support of people in need in every part of the world. I'm so grateful, we're so grateful for your work. The U.S.-Israel Strategic Partnership Act aims to strengthen the ties that bind our two nations and enhance cooperation in multiple ways. The legislation reflects the simple truth, a very simple truth, that the U.S. relationship with Israel is bound not only by mutual interests, but it is bound by deeply shared values. Indeed, the provisions of this bill, H.R. 938, mirror the broad cooperation between the United States and Israel when it comes not only to security, but to trade, research, energy, and so much more. The bill was, of course, crafted with the heightened security risks that Israel faces every day, with those heightened security risks in mind. The Middle East region is as volatile as ever, and the world must know that our commitment to Israel's security has never been stronger than it is at this moment. From the threat of daily rocket attacks from Hezbollah, Hamas, and other groups that send rockets at Israeli citizens indiscriminately, to the risk of spillover from the Syrian conflict, the growing humanitarian crisis there, and to the existential threat of a nuclear-armed Iran, Israel faces an array of very complex security challenges. Recognizing these threats, the U.S.-Israel Strategic Partnership Act includes measures to ensure Israel's qualitative military edge in a tough and all too often hostile neighborhood. H.R. 938 extends authority for the United States to expand our own forward-deployed weapons stockpile in Israel. This stockpile is critical to maintaining U.S. military readiness in the region and ensuring that our armed forces have access to the equipment they need to defend our interests at a moment's notice. This legislation also reaffirms Congress's support for Israel's right to self-defense by authorizing continued cooperation between the United States and the State of Israel on innovative missile defense programs like the Iron Dome, the Arrow, and David's Sling. These systems have proven remarkably successful at intercepting rockets and protecting the safety of the Israeli people. But even as this bill advances the security of Israel, it ultimately serves as a reminder to the world and a reminder to America of the depth of the United States-Israel relationship. H.R. 938 highlights Israel's enormous contributions to water and irrigation, agriculture, homeland security, cybersecurity, by authorizing further cooperation with the United States in these fields. It significantly expands the breadth of U.S.-Israel cooperation on energy and alternative energy forms. And I'd like to thank Chairman Upton and Ranking Member Waxman for their work on this critical language. The bill also strengthens our trade ties to Israel by initiating a process to include Israel in export license exemptions programs, and lastly, by affirming Congress's support for Israel's inclusion in the visa waiver program. Despite facing enormous security challenges, ally Israel has thrived as an open and a free society with a vibrant economy, a strong democracy, and a global innovator in agriculture.
The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
And a global innovator in agriculture, energy, and countless other fields. The United States-Israel Strategic Partnership Act reflects our bipartisan commitment to a safe, to a secure, and thriving Jewish state of Israel. I'm deeply moved by the tremendous support for Israel in this Congress, with more than half of the membership signed on to this bill. But why should this be a surprise? The security of the State of Israel is important to our national security. A thriving economy in the State of Israel with investments made by so many American companies is important to our own economy. And most importantly, having an ally that shares our values, our commitment to democracy, and the rule of law is something that the value of which cannot even be measured. I urge my colleagues to pass this legislation and send the world a message that our bond with Israel will remain unshakable. I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from New